This was another tough week for the industry. On Tuesday, the House of Representatives attempted and ultimately failed to override the governor's veto of House Bill 2513 by a mere 2 votes. Ultimately, 12 Democratic representatives flipped their votes to sustain the governor's veto. The 12 were Cerisi, Tina Davis, Deasy, Driscoll, Hill Evans, Flynn, Galloway, Kirkland, Melegari, Solomon, Wheatley, and Zabel. 2 days later, the governor held a highly publicized press conference in Pittsburgh, flanked by 2 Allegheny County representatives who flipped their votes to sustain the governor's veto of 2513. The conference was to announce a so-called lifeline in the form of liquor license fee waivers. Keeping in mind these waivers would be for 2021 fees, the average savings for a licensee amounts to about $1,500. Later in the day, legislative sources revealed that neither the PLCB nor the governor has the legal authority to waive the fees. Unsurprisingly, the announcement was met with amazement and anger across the industry. The governor had a real lifeline on his desk in the form of House Bill 2513. They opted to veto it 1 week ago. The 2 representatives who stood with the governor had the opportunity to provide the industry with a real lifeline in the form of House Bill 2513, which they essentially killed with their flipped votes. While 2513 was at least temporarily stopped, it was gratifying to know that 133 representatives, including the 24 Democrats, bravely crossed party lines to do the right thing, voted to override the governor's veto, and return the industry to safe and sensible operating standards that we were at prior to July 15th. These representatives stood with the industry when it mattered most, and I encourage you to take a few minutes to thank them, either with a quick email or a social media post. I say that 2513 was only temporarily stopped because the House could attempt another veto override vote when it returns to session after the election. Maybe by then, those who flipped the first time will realize how devastating their actions were to the 700,000 hospitality employees across the Commonwealth. The countdown to the election is on. Last night was the final presidential debate. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that your local elections are incredibly important. Take the time to know who is running and what they stand for, and then exercise your power by voting on November 3rd. I'm John Longstreet with another edition of It Happened This Week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next week.